Hello everyone. This is a short tutorial about how to use the macro indicator, and I want to briefly cover the main features it has and how can they be used to gain an edge in trading. I will also highly recommend that you read the documentation that you find in the indicator. Placing your mouse over the eye, you will see the information relevant to the options that are available. Okay, let us start. In the macro indicator, you can define up to 11 different macros, enable or disable them, and define each one of the times where you want to have a macro defined. You also have the option to define news, checkbox news. It means the highlighted areas where the macros are, they will have a special color. For instance, this one is from 1150 to 1210, which means this the macro number 8. If I check with news, then instantly the color will change, which will indicate that in that period of time you should not trade. It's a recommendation that also from ICT, don't trade on those days or that time. Of course, if you decide to use this functionality, you will need to enable or disable each day when you make your trading plan. But I think it can help. It's helped me a lot right now after I had an issue when I trade in the news days. You can also have alerts. Here is the amount of minutes in advance before the macro is reached. You can define when you want to have an alert. It does not trigger the alert. It's important that this only enable the alerts that are already enabled on the top to be considered to be alerted. For activating the alert, you will need to go to Trading View, go here and add an alert, and just click here, create. I highly recommend you do it in 1 minute. If we continue here, you can also see the prior macros highlighted. If you click here, you will see here in the previous macros, you will see highlighted areas just for backtesting if you want to see these areas highlighted. You also, of course, you can change the backgrounds. You can place it as you prefer. It can be useful if you have the macro indicator several times. I will explain right now why I have so many of them here. Is because some areas may have a different meaning, and therefore it will be useful to have different colors. As well, for the news color, I use red. You can also modify stylings here. The text of the labels here in the macros, you can change it. You can enable or disable the labels. Probably, if you don't want to see it, just disable them. You can also define, highlight the zone of the macro. It means in the period of time, the price high and the price low, you will have there a box which is a zone. You can also mark the low and the high, and also you can use the functionality shift high and low to the next macro. This is useful, but only if you have continuous macros. We will see it right now in a different example. You have high and low with everything what is for personalizing the styling, the colors. And you can also enable or disable the macro limits. Macro limits are these little lines here that are around the zone. Probably you don't want to see them. You just disable. You want to see just the area, and that's it. Okay, with this is the basic configuration, but you can use them for different strategies. I will just cancel here. I will show you, for instance, I don't want to see this any longer, but I want to see this configuration. This configuration is the one I just told you before. It means it's for continuous macros, and normally you will see here, this is the default value. The default value is that you normally have your high and your low in the place, but if you shift the high and the low to the next macro, it has a different meaning. And you can see here the high and the low, they have here a different meaning. There are strategies called 90 cycles. You can find a lot of information on the internet, in YouTube. Just watch the videos, read information, and you can decide if you want to use this functionality in the future. As well, you can also define, for instance, here there are some strategies defined based on certain periods of time where you have accumulation, manipulation, and distribution, and they repeat quite constantly. Then you decide if you want to, or for instance, red is manipulation. You decide if you want to see the other one or you want to see the distribution, whatever. It's just a matter of your preference in how to use the different areas. And of course, here in each one of them, you will be able to define all different periods of time. Okay, that's for now. I hope you can use the indicator. It's useful for you. Please let me know if you have any comments below. The indicator, you can find it in the description of this video. You just a link to TradingView and you can find it there. Hope you enjoy. Bye.